operations within the Atlantic space. So in the following slides, we are going to, or I'm going to explain you how we do it, okay? So it's important also to mention that this project is funded by the Interreg with the Atlantic area, which is a European funding program that promotes transnational collaboration among the 36 regions that belong to this geographical framework in 5 European countries. In the AT Virtual Project, the regions represented in it are País de la Loire in France, Central and Lisboa in Portugal, Southern and Eastern in Ireland, and the Principado de Asturias and the Basque Country in Spain. So the project was initiated 2 years ago in January 1st, 2019, and it's expected to end in December 2022. Okay, so back to our mission, we intend to, we intend to increase safety in maritime operations by means of the acceleration of the digitalization process of the Maritime Safety Training Centres. So I guess, or I can imagine that you are now wondering what a Maritime Safety Training Centre is. So let's say that is basically a public institution that could have different legal status. So they could be universities, they could be, or they could belong to the Navy, or they could belong to the ministry, a national ministry, that they have a very clear mission, which is to train elite staff teams who perform, okay, maritime emergency operations in very high risk conditions. Okay, we are talking about firefighting procedures, we are talking about rescue operations, this kind of things. Okay, so the digitalization process will allow them to introduce cutting-edge technologies regarding big data analytics, Internet of Things, and visual technologies, and simulation-based training systems by means of the collaboration with startups from the Atlantic space who will act as digital enablers. Is how this open innovation methodology is going to be completed. Okay, so this whole process is going to be supported by a research institution and also by other experts in the field of Industry 4.0 and digitalization. So to make it possible, we count on different types of institutions in our consortium. Of course, we count on the participation of Maritime Safety Training Centres. These centers are the key actors of the project, since they are going to participate in every phase of the project, okay? Especially in the collaboration with the startups for the definition and the implementation of the different solutions according to the needs. So we have in our consortium, we count on the participation of the Jovellanos Center, belonging to the Sociedad de Salvamento y Seguridad Marítima in Asturias, Spain, the Master Technological University from Cork Island, and the Escola Superior Náutica Infante Don Enrique from Lisboa, Portugal. The business innovation centers, okay, are also very, very important, since they are going to act as regional or national contact points for the participation of the startups in the project. And also, of course, they will encourage the participation of other stakeholders in other activities or events within the framework of the project. In our case, we count on the participation of IPN from Portugal, Instituto Pedro Nunes, Laval Maillec Tenopol from Laval, France, Corbic from Cork Island, and CEI Asturias, as I told you, is the lead partner of the project. And last but not least, we have also the Technalia Foundation, who develops and adapts the different working methodologies of the project and support the centers, especially in the assessment and the implementation of the solutions. Let's talk about the phases. AT Virtual Project has 3 different phases. So the first one is about the diagnosis. Okay. We need to know the diagnosis phase is focused on the determination of the maturity level of digitalization of the centers. Probably one of the most important deliverables of our project is the self-diagnosis to to analyze the current and potential degree of digitalization. This tool was developed by Tecnalia in collaboration, of course, with the centers. And after this diagnosis, we could have a picture about the current state of digitalization of the centers. Tecnalia, in this case, go deeper in this analysis with meetings and interviews with the centers in order to determine exclusively the processes and operations to be digitized and probably make the difference in their cases. Okay, so based on these identified needs and opportunities, the challenges were defined and will be included in the different goals. Okay. So the next phase is the selection, and the selection is really key because it allows us to establish the process for the selection of the startups in order to complete the pairings between the Maritime Safety Training Centres. So the whole process is going to be carried out through an online platform that give us the opportunity not only to launch the 3 calls expected in this project, but also to carry out the selection process that I'm going to explain in the end of my presentation. And the third phase is is about the implementation of the solutions. Once the teams between the teams, I mean, between the centers and the startups have been completed, they'll collaborate together, they work together in the definition and the implementation of the solutions. Of course, the IT Virtual Project will provide them different agile methodologies and webinars, advice in order to facilitate and speed up the process. So, going back to the challenges proposed in this call about big data analytics, I think I want to inform you how you can have access to all this information. To get this information, you have to write down this website address on your browser, and you'll have access to our website. Okay, you'll have to go to the call section. Okay, and then you'll have access to the call that is already open and is related to the big data and data analytics. Okay, if you want to see what are the challenges proposed in this call, you'll have to click on this, let's say, plus button, and you'll get to the general descriptions of these challenges. Of course, I'm not going into detail because this is the purpose of the next speakers. But in this part of the website, you can have access to the general description of the challenges proposed by each Maritime Safety Training Center. Okay, if you want to see, okay, what one of these challenges, or for example, the challenges proposed by ENIT is about, you'll have to click on the More Info button, and you can see all the information about this challenge regarding the context and the definition of the problem, the challenge description, the requirements, the expected outcomes, and the budget. Okay, I think it's a very complete information, so that in this case the startup could have a good picture, a very good solutions according to this challenge. And also all this information you can download it in the PDF file. Okay, you can replicate the same process in order to check all the information about the other challenges. Okay. So if you want to see the information about the challenge proposed by Janos, you click on the More Info button, and you can get access to this information, and it's the same for the challenge proposed by the Master Technological University. Okay. So who can participate in this call? Okay, basically companies. Okay, but companies that have to fulfill 3 specific requirements, or they have to fulfill 3 specific conditions. Conditions regarding to the size of the company. The companies must be or must let's see have to fit in the definition of SME according to the definition of the European Union. Of course, small and micro companies are allowed to participate. Okay, so self-employed partnerships and associations are not eligible for the participation in this project. All the, let's say, proposals must be single or individual, presented by just one specific company. The origin is also very, very important. In this case, is requirement established by the program, the Atlantic Space Program. And the companies must be established or with a place of employment with at least one employee in one of the regions belonging to the Atlantic space. Okay, so you can see in this table the eligible regions to participate. In the case of Spain, for example, there are Galicia, Principado de Asturias, Cantabria, Navarra, País Vasco, Andalucía, Huelva, Cádiz, and Sevilla, and the Canary Islands. Okay. And also the last requirement is the date of the incorporation. So applicants must prove that the date of the incorporation has been set after January 1st, 2010. Okay, so this is the conditions that in this case the applicants must fulfill if they want to participate in this call. How to submit a proposal? As I said, all this information, all the process will be available through our AT Virtual website or platform. Okay, so if you want to submit a proposal, you also have to go to our website and click on the calls section again, clicking in the second call. But before doing that, I really recommend reading the terms of reference of the group. Okay. Then you'll have all the information regarding the call and all the aspects that you have to bear in mind if you want to propose a very good solution to one of these challenges. Okay? And also visit the facts section, in which could be considered as a summary, okay, of these terms of reference. And then, of course, you'll have what you can submit. If you want to submit one solution to one of these challenges, for example, in the case of the Centro Jovellanos, you'll have to click on the more info, and at the bottom of the description of the challenge, you'll find this application button. Okay, so you'll have to click on it, and the first thing that we are going to ask you is to fill out this let's see, application form or question. So which is basically about the content information about the company, and also the person that are submitting or is submitting the solution, the proposal. And I think the most important part of this submission process is the documentation that you have to include, okay, during the process. And the first document is the memory of the solution. Okay, you can download it in the call section, just below the terms of reference site. Okay, and the memory is about the following contents. You have to include information about general information, the contact details of the company, the description of the solution to the challenge proposed, the innovative approach according to the current state of the art of the technology. It's important to mention that the relation of all the equipment and estimated cost necessary for the implementation of the solution according to the value for money is something that it's important and is well explained in the terms of reference. So that's why I recommend you reading this part, okay, the terms of reference. So the planned activities to carry out during the implementation of the solution, the company technological background about their successful cases and the application of this technology, company resources to provide for the implementation of the solution, budget, and other relevant information to be considered for the proposal. Okay. The legal documentation, okay, for the eligibility, okay, if especially with the 3 requirements that I explained before, that is important to show an evidence of all of them. In this case, we provide you different templates that you can download, and you have, of course, to fill out and include in the submission process. Is the legal entity form, the legal existence about the company register, showing the name of the organization, the legal status, the legal address, or proving the VAT registration. Of course, the company must show also the evidence of the date of incorporation and the SME conditions in order to show that, okay, you are an SME. Okay. So you have to fill out or complete information through this link, okay, that also you can find in the terms of reference. And also you have to send us the balance sheet and the profit and loss account for the last financial period, okay. After doing all of this, and you have to agree with our privacy policy, clicking on it, and of course you will be able to submit all the your solution, okay, to the chosen challenge by you. So the deadline for doing this is October 29th at 5 p.m. Okay, so it's very important, okay, to do it before this deadline, because otherwise all the registrations or all the solutions submitted after this deadline will be discarded. Okay, so the better, or the sooner you do it, the better for all of us. Another conditions for the eligibility, okay, that of course you have to fulfill. The applicants, all the information must be readable, accessible, and printable. And the memory must be completed in English. That's important, very important. And you have to use a source, this Arial 10, and not exceed of 10 pages. Okay, 10 pages and maximum. The memory must include a budget for the services, specifying the cost foreseen by the participant for the definition and the implementation of the solution grouped by phases. Okay, and this is very important. The budget must be less than 15,000 euros. Okay, VAT excluded. Additionally, the participant must be specified in the description and the estimated cost of the equipment, hardware, sensors, classes necessary for the implementation of the solution, bearing in mind the value of money. Okay, so is the best quality at minimum investment. In any case, okay, all this equipment will be available, okay, by the Maritime Safety Training Center. It's not your role to provide this equipment to the center. Okay, this is important as well. An applicant, of course, can submit just one proposal to each challenge in every call. Okay, you can apply for the 3 challenges, but just with one solution. Okay, so after the submission process, I'm going to explain you how the selection process works. Okay, so there are different phases or stages in this selection process. So the first one is the validation, assessment, pre-selection, and the selection event for the final selection of the solution. Okay. The first one is regarding the validation. In this case, the partners involved in this stage are going to check the eligibility of all the applicants. Okay, so the proposal we validated, provided that, of course, all the documentation is have been sent and checked, and the memory is completed, understandable, attesting to the conditions required, and the proposal, of course, fulfills all the eligibility criteria. In case of one of these documents is missing, or the staff forgets to send one of them, the startup will be requested to send this document. Okay, but the period for subsanate or to solve this missing documentation will be just 15 days after the cutoff of the call. So in our case, will be more or less November 15th. Okay, so if something is, let's see, we detect the one of these documents, this will request the startup to send it. Okay, so but is a specific deadline for doing this. After this deadline, all the, let's say, the failed proposals will be discarded. Okay, and it's important also to bear this in mind. So, so the proposals that passed the next the previous stage will be, in this case, assessed according to the following. In this case, by the Maritime Safety Training Centres in collaboration with the Technical Foundation. So they'll assess the currency of the proposal, the experience and background of the company, the evaluation of the technology and innovation, the risk evaluation that could be introduced in the project, the availability of the company resources, the feasibility of the budget according to the plan proposed for the implementation of the solutions, and maybe other added value that could be assessed as well. Okay, so it's important also to reach every threshold in every part of this in this evaluation, because if these proposals, if any proposals could reach any of these thresholds, could be also discarded. So of course, pay attention and the necessary time to prepare a very good proposal. Okay. Let's say that the most score proposals will be invited to participate in the selection event that could be considered as a startup competition. Okay. In this case, the startups, the pre-selected startups could compete in a fast-track pitch presentation, and they'll have the opportunity as well to have an interview with the Maritime Safety Training Centres that they propose a solution for the challenge. It's 30 minutes interview, and of course, you'll have the opportunity to explain further what is the objective and the purpose of your solution to their challenge. For the determination of the final score of the selections, you can see which is the formula that we're going to use. So the 30% of the final score is the assessment of your memory. The 20% will be your pitch score, and the 50% is going to be the interview. Okay, so the company that finally gets the highest score will be selected, and of course to accompany the center for the next stage, which is the definition and the implementation of the solution. Every participant will be informed after the celebration of this selection event that I mentioned before. So I want to show you as well, which is the time frame for the next stages, especially for the definition and implementation of the solutions. Once the pairing has been established, and we can consider this time when the signature of the contract has been done, the companies in collaboration with the center will have more or less 1 month for the definition of the solutions, and then we'll start with the implementation process of the solution. Okay, so there are different payment periods for your invoice in this case. The first one will be after the when you finish the definition of the solutions. You receive, in this case, the startup will receive the 20% of their invoice, of the budget that they propose in their proposal. After the 3 months, they receive the 40% of the invoice, and the remaining part will be paid, in this case by the center, after the implementation of the solutions. Of course, during all these stages, you'll have access to another tools, as I told you, the JAL methodology for the definition of the solution, and also have the contents of the webinars and training sessions that were carried out during the project. So I want to tell you why to participate, especially for the startups. Okay, I think there are very good advantages for all of you to think about the possibility to take part in the project. So I think the first one is one of the most important ones is you are going to be considered as a service provider. Okay, so you'll have to invoice, in this case, the center, and you'll be paid for it. So there's no further complication. There's no grant procedures that is very common in this kind of European collaborative programs. Okay, so another good advantages or benefits to participate is the notoriety. Okay, you can also have another successful case in your portfolio, and not maybe will give you the opportunity to step into a very promising industry, which is the maritime industry, specifically in this in the field of digitalization. So about the international visibility, of course, IT Virtual will give you the opportunity to probably start your internationalization process, and maybe, of course, you can show evidence of this process, for example, with the collaboration with one of these maritime safety training centers. Also, it's important to mention that the different tools that the IT Virtual project will provide you during the process, the agile methodologies, webinars, I think there are very good contents, informations that could contribute to facilitate the process, and the possibility as well to establish long-term relationships. Maybe this is the first step for a long collaboration with the Maritime Safety Training Centres. These centers have to be, let's see, updated, digital updated, because of course there are new requirements that they have to fulfill, and there are new courses and new trainings that they have to perform. So of course, if they find a very reliable technological provider, maybe it could be one of you. So why not, okay, to step into and collaborate with them. So that was all by my side. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be open to respond your questions that probably you could leave in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to see them. Okay, maybe you are going to ask, okay, during the next section of this info day. So let's move on to the next section, which is about the challenges presentation, in this case by any of the Maritime Safety Training Centres that are taking part in the IT Virtual project. We are going to start with the first one, in this case proposed by Enid, in this case it be presented by Joao Carlos Frade. So Joao, I think the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Roberto.
Okay.
Good morning, all. My name is João Frade. I'm a lecturer in Portuguese Nautical School, ENIT, and I'm member of the team coordinator of this project. I will start sharing the presentation. I think it's okay. Okay, as I told before, ENIT, it's a public polytechnic higher education institution. And as higher education institution is a center for creation, dissemination, and transmission of culture, science, and technology. ENID was founded in 1924. We are located in the Past Arcs, in front of Tagus River. The ENID is the only public higher education institution dedicated to training in the maritime port area in Portugal. You can see our facilities, our localization in the pictures. Our main facilities in our campus, we have the student residence, main buildings for class, simulators, workshops, gym, labs, and also in our campus, the number 14 and 15, as you can see in the picture, is the VTS, Portuguese Coastal VTS Center in our inside our campus. In ENID, we have two departments, the Transport and Logistic Department and the Marine Engineering. In both departments, we have 5 undergraduate courses, deck and beach operation, port management, logistic and transportation management, marine engineering, and marine electrotechnical engineering. In graduated courses, we have 2 master degrees, and we will focus on the deck and bridge operation for our challenge. We also have all ISTCW short courses available for seafarers. As Roberto very well explained in the beginning, the AT Virtual overall objective is to accelerate the digitalization of maritime safety trainings in the Atlantic area. And the proposal of ENID is the development of an intelligent solution to verify the compliance of the maritime course programs with various training requirements or legal requirements. This is our main challenge. We will focus on master degree in bridge and deck operations. We have a lot of subjects in the first semester and second semesters, and all of them comply to the certification of the students. So we need to follow the training requirements all the time in the training. The STCW is the requirement for this kind of training. It's standards of training, certification, and watchkeeping convention, STCW, requires that the training and assessment of seafarers are administered, supervised, and monitored in accordance with the provision of STCW code. A lot of info are inside this STCW code, and we need to follow. And there are also the model course that IMO was designated this area of course to help implement of the STCW convention as well as other IMO instruments. So the model courses are tools intended to assist member states to develop detailed programs, and we follow the model course to our course, and we will focus in the master degree in bridge and deck operation, as I told, for our main challenge. So the application will provide better evidence of compliance with legal requirements. We have 3 main organizations that constantly make the monitoring of the contents of the course. The National Maritime Administration, Direção-Geral dos Recursos Naturais, Segurança e Serviços Marítimos, the Portuguese Maritime Administration, the European Maritime Safety Agency, and the National Higher Education and Accreditation Agency. So we need to we have regular audits with this organization. So we need to fulfillment of the requirements, and this is the main problems we want to develop this solution to simplify this process, to give them the evidence that we are compliant with all the training requirements. And of course, one of the problems, as I told, is identify the course approval process is the fulfillment of all the requirements defined in the applicable legal documents, as I told. After the course approval, the regular audits put pressure on education, so we need to keep the same requirements, update, and show that evidence during the audits when you have that audits. So our challenge definition, we propose to development of an intelligent solution to verify the compliance of the maritime course programs with the maritime training requirements. So the main objective of the solution is compare whether all the contents defined in the legal documents are introduced or not in the structure of the course. In this case, master degree course in bridge and deck operation. A lot of info are inside the curricular units, and we want to simplify this project to show the evidence that we are following the requirements for international requirements for maritime training for this kind of course. The solution shall be able to some topics for this solution: import the course programs for the training institutions database, and also import the files containing the training requirements. And of course, the output we want is show and demonstrate that we are following all the mandatory requirements and in our course. Some technical requirements for our challenge: the data input, create a data set of the curricular units of the master degree in bridge and deck operation, and also the maritime training requirements. The reading formats, the normal reading formats, the PDF, Word, image, ebooks, we will provide all this info. And of course, the updates to data set, it's one important technical question for we can demonstrate in the future that we are following the new requirements. So enable the introduction of new contents or new legal documents, or the change we can make in the curricular units or new curricular units. The user interactions must be able to allow the user to define filters to generate the reports that will be the output we would like to have, and the solution must be user friendly. Regarding the reports, we would like to have some examples. Identify the contents of a selected legal requirement in selected curricular units or course, or for example, historic reports of updates to legal requirements and curricular units, as the other examples we have in this presentation. Updates, the program must generate a historic record of all change made to legal documents, curricular units or course with at least the following information. Record all updates for web that reports and show that the reports are updated with the last requirements of for the training course, and identify the last updates made to the legal documents, curricular units or course. Automatic learning. So this is a very important characteristic of the solution. So because when we define the programs or the legal matters are not exactly right in the same way, don't need it, but the contents are the same, the subjects are the same. So the program shall learn to carry the user when it's possible, and then learn that to make the match between the contents and legal requirements when it's not exactly the same and same words. The budget, as Roberto well explained in the presentation, so it's around maximum 15,000 euros budget. We also have 3,000 in our site to hardware to try to buy and have the solution with the hardware necessary for implementation the solution. And I think for my side was a quick presentation. Of course, I'm available to make any clarification or doubts, and thank you for your attention. Roberto, I will stop my sharing screen.
Yeah. Yes, please. Yes. Thank you, Joao, for your explanation. Okay. We don't have any questions so far. Probably we are going to have it during the session. So we are going to move on to the next presentation, to the next challenge presentation. In this case, sorry, is going to be performed by the Master Technological University, presented in this case by Mike Grew. So Mike, then the floor is yours.
Okay, hello. Thank you, Roberto. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Grew, and I work for the Halpin Research Centre, which handles the research on behalf of the National Maritime College of Ireland. Just having it. No,
we're seeing, yeah, the end. Okay, it's working.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Apologies for that. Yes, so as Roberto correctly introduced us, as MTU, that's the name of the legal entity, that's our parent legal entity. The National Maritime College of Ireland is the MTSC that is posing this challenge, which is, as I hope you're aware, is to improve the depth of feedback that we're getting about certain of our maritime safety related courses. At the moment, a questionnaire form is used, and we want to elicit information that goes beyond the answers that we're getting there. So I'll begin this presentation with a brief description of the NMCI, really to give an insight into why we set this challenge and why we believe that better feedback will be useful for us. And I'll show you some pictures, some images that show examples of the training activity that we want to improve feedback about, really to familiarize you with the type of training that we do, and to ask you to imagine the mindsets of the students who are taking this training when they're providing feedback. So then I'll talk about the challenge, the context of the challenge, why feedback is important for our courses, for setting the courses, and why there are barriers to the collecting feedback the way it's done at the moment. After that, we'll talk about the solution that we propose and the outcomes that we expect, although this is an area that we hope that you, the SMEs who propose to take on the challenge, will have some input into as the experts in the technology that we believe that we want used. So when you pitch at the selection event, I hope that's when we'll hear more from you about the ideas for how to implement the system and to achieve the goals that we set. And then finally, I'll mention a few points regarding administration of the project. And as Bert already said, if you have any questions, please save them to the end or post them on the chat during the presentation. So here's a view of the Maritime College, the NMCI, and you can see it's located on the south coast of Ireland. The nearest landmark on this map is Cove, but really we're associated with Cork City. The college and the buildings itself are used by three groups of users. So in common with other maritime safety training organizations, not only do we cater for maritime cadets, so these would be students taking nautical studies degrees, and their training would include sea time and International Maritime Organization exams, so that when they graduate, they're also qualified to work at sea. The college is also used by the Irish Navy, who train all they do basic seamanship training for all of their recruits, as well as the Duck Officer cadets who will be joining the merchant and marine students for nautical studies. And finally, the third group is a group of trainees that we generally referred to as candidates for commercial courses. So this would be any trainee who is plans to work offshore in the oil and gas industry, or experienced mariners who are returning to renew their safety qualifications. The syllabi for these courses are accredited by international organizations. The International Maritime Organization would be setting the standards for safety training for mariners, and the Offshore Petroleum Industry Training Organization, or APITO, would be setting similar requirements, the syllabi overlap for offshore workers. An important point about the syllabi is that the training is recurrent. So every 4 years, APITO qualifications are renewed. Every 5 years, the IMO qualifications, the standards of training, certification, and watchkeeping for seafarers, STCW is the abbreviation. So that would be renewed, or elements of it renewed every 5 years, which means that the demographics of our candidates, their ages, their experience, the work they've done already, and their levels of motivation to undertake the training differs. So for a new recruit, for the first time he's done the training, it's an exciting experience, whereas for an old hand, it would be something they just need to tick a box to renew their certificate and keep their jobs. So with that in mind, here's a montage of images that show the training that we do. And as you know, as I mentioned, the challenge is to improve the depth of feedback that we get. So you can see the firefighting training at the bottom on the right, the sea survival training on the left, which includes learning to cox or to pilot the survival craft. First aid training, because of course on board a ship or offshore there's no emergency services to call, and the helicopter underwater escape training. So keep in mind the people, the trainees who are doing this have often done this training before, but those are the people that we are most interested in getting information from, because they will have applied this training in their jobs, and that's how we can improve our courses, is to learn from them. So why is feedback important? Well, it's important for 3 reasons. It's a key element of our management quality control. So this is an internal management standards to ensure that the courses themselves are being delivered at a high standard, and matters of safety to the staff and to the students are being maintained. They're also key because they're required for part of the accreditation. They're expected for the accreditation bodies, APITO and IMO. And lastly, we want to improve the courses, and so we're keen to learn from the candidates. And the trainees have their unique experience from their workplace, and it's this kind of information that currently, because the feedback is generated, as we'll see, right at the end of the course. So a course would typically be 3 days or 5 days of training, covering one of the topics that you could see in the previous slide. But and this form that you can see on the right is the standard type of feedback form with closed 5-point closed Likert scale questions to answer, and an open comment text field as well. But this would be presented to the candidates on the last session, at the end of the last session, on the last day of training. And I'll explain in a moment why this is possibly causing us to miss some feedback that would be useful. So in terms of why we think that we're not getting some feedback that we could, as you can see, there are reasons. The bias of a student towards his instructor, it seems strange to be calling this bias, but what I mean is that the students will be, if they're new to training, they're in a dangerous situation, and their instructors are actually keeping them safe. So there would be a reluctance to really criticize any of the training, because obviously if the student has survived the training, they feel that the training has been successful, even if they had unique problems themselves during the training. So for example, students who are poor swimmers will be underconfident, and there may have been possibilities to make their training better, but they'd be reluctant to voice concerns because they'd be seen as a sign of weakness, and so on. Students might not be motivated towards giving feedback. For example, I gave a candidate who is maybe towards the end of their career at sea. They've been working for 30 years. They've probably got a lot more experience than the instructors, and they've been in situations where they've applied their real life skills towards incidents, and they're wondering whether the training is really providing them with anything worth getting. So, that's one example of why a candidate might not be motivated to provide feedback. And finally, there are distractions at the end of a session, of the last session of the last day. Students will be tired. They may be thinking about their travel arrangements, whether they're going to be in time to get their flight or catch their train, and that again will be preventing them from spending time giving feedback. And finally, they simply might be happy they've got their certificate renewed. They don't really care about the training, other than it's a means to an end. So the solution, well, we think a solution would be a conversational chatbot. What we're looking to do is to mine those particular forms, the feedback forms that have been returned to us, with low scores or with suggestions that have been added to the comments box. We don't intend to replace the feedback questionnaire. In fact, we can't. So this is a trial of a supplementary system, which is why we're interested in mining only those candidates who have provided us already with a negative indication or with some extra information. So the chatbot system must not interfere with the implementation of the current questionnaire form system. We must maintain anonymity, and that shouldn't be a problem because the forms themselves are anonymous. So for example, if each form were to include a serial number, then the chatbot would be able to refer to that serial number, and the person who would be using or be accessing the chatbot over the internet, that session would be anonymous as well, but the chatbot would be able to associate the information on a particular form with the person who is the user. Finally, we see the solution as a challenge within a challenge, because chatbots are usually used for answering questions, providing the user with information, whereas we want to use them in the opposite sense, to gather information, and to use artificial intelligence to mine the user for information relevant. And why use a chatbot to do this? Well, I think it's fairly obvious that the convenience of using a chatbot is key. There's no time pressure on the users as there is with a form in the scenario that I explained at the end of the last session of the last day of the course. And in fact, candidates who are traveling by rail or by train might welcome the distraction of interacting with a chatbot. Using a chatbot as an alternative to the form will distance the trainee from the training environment, and this could reduce the bias and distraction of being tired or so on, so long as not too much time passes, so that the experiences of the training is clear in the trainees' minds. Other reasons to use a chatbot, I've put question marks after these because really whether this is feasible within the scope of the project is for the SME candidates to tell us. But we have in mind that possibly the style of conversation that's used could be tailored to the respondent in terms of whether the interaction is formal or informal, whether the vocabulary used is adjusted to the age of the user. The chatbot might learn during the course of a conversation, and by adapting its response, the chatbot might encourage a respondent to engage. And finally, we believe the system could be used to learn from responses that it's had through time. And for example, if some suggestions have been already given for a particular topic, when a user comments on the same topic, the chatbot could use the information it already has learned to encourage the user to mine that user for more information. For example, it could simply ask for that suggestion, whether the user considers that suggestion relevant, and lead a conversation about that topic. Again, we expect to give the SMEs a free hand towards developing the architecture and the deployment of the system. Finally, a summary of the system. I think I've already covered the points here, that the system must correlate users with the information on the handwritten forms. We're looking primarily to mine the questions that have been answered on those forms with negative scores. Why were the users dissatisfied, or provided suggestions, so that we can get more information about those points, and possibly the system can adapt itself according to previous responses. And finally, just to close this presentation, just a reminder that we are the National Maritime College of Ireland. It's the Maritime Training Safety Centre that's posing this challenge, although MTU, the Munster Technological University, is our legal entity. We expect to have a close working. Sorry,
Okay. Now we are listening to you, Mike.
Oh, you mean I've been speaking all this time with no microphone?
No, just for 1 second.
Oh.
No.
I finished anyway. I was just going to say we expect to have a close working relationship with our SMEs, because of course this is a system that we'll have to learn and expert, and it will involve expert knowledge that we have and will provide. And finally, the 5-month implementation period for the project is to get the system up and running and working. Beyond that, we will be needing to gather data that falls beyond the scope of the contract that we'll have with the SME. However, we would welcome engagement with the SME beyond that contract period, as the results of this, the effectiveness of the system, would be something they would want to use perhaps for a case study or for marketing. So we're quite happy to engage with them beyond the 6-month period. And that concludes my presentation. So again, thank you for your attention.
Sharing your
and,
presentation.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll hand the floor back to, oh, if there are any questions, let me just see. No, so I hand the floor back to you, Roberto.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you, Mike, for your interesting presentation about your challenge.
You're welcome.
Since we have no questions at the moment, we are going to move on to the next speaker. The challenge presentation will be done, in this case, by Sasemar, in this case, presented by Jose Cristobal Maraver. So, Jose, I think the floor is yours.
Yeah, but I cannot activate the video, my camera.
You need to activate your camera so that you can share your screen.
Yeah, but I cannot activate the camera.
Okay.
Probably have you stopped the camera?
No.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Now
it's working. Now it's working.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So,
guided problems.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will share my presentation of you. So yes, a minute. And yeah, I will share my presentation. Okay, can you see?
Yes.
Can you see my presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
So thank you very much for giving us in Centro Jovellanos the opportunity to participate in this startup. For us, it's very important. So thank you very much, and the opportunity to present our little bit problem and how to resolve the problem. I will present it to you for all the persons just assisting to this meeting. Okay, first of all, I only want to resume what we do in Salvamento Marítimo in Spain. And as you can see, the Spanish Maritime Safety and Rescue Agency, just called as Salvamento Marítimo, is a state executive agency established in '92 and has been operating since under the Maritime Authority, the Spanish Maritime Authority, and also the Development Ministry. And one of the objectives of the Spanish Maritime Search and Rescue agencies to monitor and support the maritime traffic. So for us, it's very important just try to get all the information from the ICE equipment, automatic identification system of all the vessels, just transmitting the information by means of different antennas all over the seashore line in Spain. We record all the information, and also at the same time we can see online the position of the vessels during their transit. So as you can see, there's a high density traffic areas all over the Spain, as you can see in this little bit picture. And you have to take account that in Spain there's several traffic separation schemes in which it is possible to redirection all the trucks, all the vessels. And there's also a great quantity of port areas in which there's a great quantity of movement of the vessels just transiting, entering and leaving the port areas, and in which it's necessary to know the potential risk of all the vessels just transiting inside these areas all over the Spain. So there's a large amount of data record by Salvamento Marítimo that describes perfectly potential risk, as you can see in this little bit picture. For example, in Gibraltar Strait, there's a so great quantity of vessels just transiting continuously every day, every hour, and it will be necessary for us just try to determine what is the potential risk all over the areas. As you can see also in Finisterre, as you can see, not only these main traffic lanes of all the vessels transiting through seashore line, but also all the small vessels, like for example, fishing boats and other type of vessels just leaving or entering in a great port all over the Spain. As you can see in the Mediterranean Sea, there's a great quantity of vessels just leaving and entering different ports, very important ports. For example, Barcelona and Tarragona, Valencia, and also with the traffic separation scheme just appointed in very clear high density areas all over the seashore line, and also the Balearic Island. And as you can see, another part of the Spain is Canary Island, in which you can see very perfectly the tracks of all the vessels just transiting through the area. So in Centro Jovellanos, during the training of vessel traffic services operators, has identified that in certain areas, in some areas with high maritime traffic density, the large amount of data using traditional methods could be hiding potential risk to consider and to be trained. And according with this idea, the big data solution is needed. Try to describe or try to represent over a map the different type of vessels, the different ranges of speed, the ranges of different courses, and the intervals of daytime of all the vessels. And as you can see, this is a little bit picture of only 12 hours of transiting vessels over the traffic separation scheme in Gibraltar Strait. You can see different type of vessels. In yellow are the high-speed craft, and in red and blue there are tankers and bulk carrier type of vessels just transiting for the inside a traffic separation scheme, just drawing over the cartography. And as you can see, a very great quantity of track of ice of the vessels over the area. And as you can see, there's a lot of anthems over the seashore line, just recording continuously the signal of all the vessels transmitting their position continuously. And you have to take account that the main sources of these records come from the information provided by the radar tracking system, whose anthems are located on Earth, as you can see in this little bit picture, and from ships transponder at the same time, logically, whose signals are captured by VHF antennas at the same time, just recorded by INSASEMAR in very great servers. So the maritime data coming from ice radar signal, we are distributing by means of several tables, plain tables as a CSV format, in which every one table has approximately 100,000 registers. So the system that we need, or the software that we need, is have to import this type of information in order to get a solution, in order to calculate the potential risk of the vessels just transited over a particular area that the usuary designed. So in this case, the system will allow the possibility to import shapefile formats inside the system, and also the same time GeoJSON file formats, also the possibility to import into the system. This is a little bit representation of a table, CSV table, in which you can see the main data that we have, that we are recording, and also at the same time that we need to import into the software in order to get the solution that we need. So this is the special number of a vessel, the ship type, the type of the ship, you know, cargo ship, passenger ship, etc., the length, the latitude and the longitude of the vessel, and also the most important, apart from the speed and the course of the vessel, is the time stamp. The time stamp. This is the time, the date, and the hour format just imported into the system. Is the most important thing that we have to import. And as you can see, just trying to import into a GIS, you can see the main graphic results over a map. It's a dynamic situation of all the vessels with the different tracks, with all the tracks of the vessel just importing into a system. And as you can see in this in this video, you can see perfectly what is the main track of the vessel just transiting over an area in which there's a traffic separation scheme just in the middle of the Gibraltar Strait, and also at the same time the dynamic position of the density area. So the system must be capable of importing layers of vector information and also the CSV. Apart from the main ice data track of the vessel just recorded by Salvamento Marítimo and SACEMAR, and also represented by Jovellanos, Centro Jovellanos, is very important to import another type of layers, like cartography layers. For example, could be a web map service connection, 21 URL possibility to just try to represent as an image inside the web map system. And also at the same time will be possible or must allow the possibility to import as a vector layer all the bathymetry of the studied area, and also of all the obstructions could be possible just try to import into the system, like for example in this video in which you can see perfectly all the tracks of the vessel just sailing over an area in which you can see the cartography layer just at the bottom of the movement of the track of the vessels, and also as you can see by this area, in this area, all the bathymetry layer. So the system could be must have the possibility to import as an independent layer all the bathymetry of the area, apart from the image, yes, for example, with a web map service connection in order to represent all the as an image. And also all this obstruction must be representing over the system. So for us, need to know is very important the collision probability as a dynamic map and the quantification of the risk. Also at the same time, the stranding or rounding probability dynamic map as a web map, and the quantification of this type of risk. Draw over a map and export the results as a vector georeferencing layers as a TIFF images, and export graphical results as a GPG images, also georeferenced in order to make independent studies in relation with the type of collision or in relation with the total amount of vessel with probability of stranding or grounding over an area study. And also at the same time, will be very important for us to filter which type of information to visualize, type of vessel, ranges of course, the speeds, and intervals of day times on the draft. But what is the main problem? How to resolve this type of question? As you can see, in order to resolve, you have to take account that will be possible that the system will allow the possibility to define the study areas, to get all the data tables, and also the layers independently in order to import into the system. So logically import the data and layers. At the same time, in order to explain a little bit more this information, the data imported is necessary to import the ICE data, as I can say, as I have told you as before, and at the same time the data radar. And this data radar, there are so great quantity of vessels with no ICE equipment, because there's no any obligation for some type of vessel in order to get this type of safety equipment, but it's not necessary for them. It's not obliged for them. Just try to transmit the position information. So we have the information in a radar data information, but the system have to take the possibility to import this type of information only or also by means of a CSV table. At the same time, another type of layers like the bathymetry, the obstructions, and also the cartography will be very important. Just try to represent inside the system by means of a GPG image, or the possibility to take a connection by web map service with a, in this case, the Nautical Institute, the Hydrographical Institute in Spain, that distribute this free of charge this signal for all who wanted to import this signal into their system, into the web map. Also, with all this information, we need to run a model, and we have to extract information in this way to get density maps, just running the model, to get the collisions probability of all the vessels, just importing into the system, just taking account at the same time the layers of bathymetry and obstructions, and also the grounding probability, the stranding probability of all the vessels over an area. So calculating all this system will be the possibility also of geo export as an image. And as you can see, probably you have to think that probably there's a lot of quantity of organisms interested in this type of results. Not only the Maritime Rescue Safety Agency, Salvamento Marítimo, as called SASEMAR, and Centros Jovellanos, just a part, a very important part of the Maritime Rescue and Safety Agency, but also the port authorities probably will be interested in to know the probability risk of collisions, and also the grounding of all the vessels just transiting or entering or leaving a port. And organisms in charge of security, and you have to take account that this prototype will be of interest to any organization involved in maritime safety task, not only as a training tool, as a maritime traffic operators, but also for the port authorities, as I've told you, our national organization with responsibilities on maritime traffic management. So this is the question, this is the problem, and just presenting to you, and I hope that will be just well acknowledge the problem that we have to transmit to you. So thank you very much for giving us the possibility to show you what is the main problem, and try what is the main possibility, try to resolve these type of questions. So thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Jose, for your presentation about your challenge. I think we have a question for you in the chat. Okay. So Better Maps is asking you that in what programming language are the models written, or must be implemented based on equations?
Well, we have now we have no any programming language, and probably could be a free programming language, like for example Leaflet, or could be the possibility just try to implement the system by means of for example Esri. We don't know. It's I think that could be a free election for all the people who wanted to make this or who wanted to do a solution for that. There's no any type of any one programming language, just writing all the models. But it's necessary to get a web map. You know, I think that probably the question is of that way. It's necessary to present a web map, and it's the dynamic web map all the layers must be implemented in order to represent visually, not only the equations, the result of the equations, but the graphical solution based on the equations, on the probability risk just before calculated, must be presented in a web map and in a, of course, dynamic web map. And also the second question is just giving a CSV table. All data is possible to give you the ice information and the track of the vessel information is possible to give all or to import all of them in CSV table, but also will be the probability probably just to import as a shape file, for example, the bathymetry layer and the obstruction in a shape file format, in a vectorial way, you know. So the ice track is possible to import, will be necessary to import as a CSV table, and also the possibility to import as a shape file the obstructions and the bathymetry layers. And the representation of the cartography will be only as a web map service, just connecting with a server in order to represent as an image inside the web map. I suppose will be just answer all the questions.
We have another one from Better Maps as well. I don't know if I can read it for you if you want. Must the CSV tables imported manually or can be connected to the service automatically?
Yeah, the main question is that must be imported manually by the usuary. You know, so in this case, the CSV table, each is CSV table of compiling or taking or getting all the information of the ice track is approximately 100,000 registers. So the system need to have the possibility to import several tables and also connected or crossed information between them in order to make the calculation with all the tables imported over the system.
And also we have another question from Francisco Gaez. The second question was also, which is the time span to obtain the tables if they are automatically loaded?
I don't understand very well the question. The time span to obtain the tables. But it will be not automatically loaded. It will be manually loaded, all the information, you know, because it's not possible to connect with the service that we have. So the only possibility is that we extract all the information as a CSV table or as a KML information or as a shape file information. At the same time, it's possible for us to extract all the information in these three types of files. And this information must be manually imported into the system. I think it's the very possibility.
Another question from Francisco. I think that you are seeing it.
Well, now it's not. There's no possibility to extract the information of the servers because it's a very complicated situation, because you have to take make a system just take into account the informatical service in SASEMAR. So it will be very difficult just try to connect this type of to connect with the server in order to extract this information, because we have our own system in which we store all the information, and there's our own system, own software in which we can extract the information between daytime period just elected manually by the usuary. So the possibility we will have that we will extract all information between 2 times in an interval of time, and then with this table just import into the system, into the web map, and try to calculate all the risky situation. So it will be manually. I think is the very solution for that, and the more quickly solution, and the more easier.
So we have another question from Nuno Lucas. What parts of the system are already implemented and the ones that still be developed?
Well, we have not implemented any system now. We have a web mapping, which is possible to import KML data track as a free program leaflet, but there's no any now any just implemented system. So the system and the web map system must be implemented by the first one, you know, and we will have all the information necessary and all the information, all the necessary information in order to make the web map and in order to implement all the information inside the web map or inside the software. We'll provide all the information as completely the ICE data track, and also the largest information with the bathymetry, the larger information with the obstruction, and the WMS, the web map service URL connection to the data, to the server of Hydrographical Institute in Spain. Okay, thanks. Not at all. It's a pleasure for me.
Don't worry, because we are going to, to upload the record of this INFODAY, and will be available for all of you in our DAT virtual platform. Okay, so we are going to disseminate the video of this INFODAY through our platform, so don't worry about it.
Okay, Roberto, I also want to explain a little bit more that it will be necessary for the rest of the company just try to implement the system and the software by the very first moment. We have no implementing in the software. Okay, I think that probably will be just in relation with the last question. With part of system are already implementing. It's necessary for the company just trying to make the software by a very first beginning. Okay, and they can use any type of language of programmation that they wanted.
Okay, thank you, Jose, for
not at all
this further information about your challenge. I don't know if we have more questions, not only about this challenge, maybe for the previous ones, or about the process about how to submit or participate in the call. Okay, I think this is this is all by our side. I want to thank especially the speakers, especially Joao, Mike, and Jose for this priceless participation and about the high quality of the presentations of their challenges. And I want to thank you all, of course, all the participants in this INFODAY. I see that there are several startups participating and attending this INFODAY. I think, or I can guess, that you are interested in taking part in the second call of the Big Data Analytics. Of course, will encourage you to do it. And I think that you find it interesting, because otherwise you wouldn't be here with us. Okay. Just to conclude the session, I like to call your attention for the next webinar that we are going to celebrate next week on October 21st. It's a webinar about big data analytics. We want to show, okay, or raise awareness about the potential of this technological topic, digital topic. And also we are going to give you not as in detail as we did today, but okay, some information about how you can participate in this call. So we'll start with the dissemination of this webinar, and hope you find it interested and wanted to attend it. Thank you again. And of course, we remain at your disposal for any doubt, any inquiry, or any comment that you want to send us, okay, about this call or anything you need. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.